All right, so here is this video by Frop. This video is called Transcending DBD. I don't know what it's about, but we watched one of their videos before. It was entertaining and fun. So you should go over there and subscribe and like real quick with that link that I just sent you, because that's how you support the official release of the video. Because if you don't, you're a jerk, and I hate you. So I'll do that. So yeah, go in and watch. Night Gardener, appreciate you. That's well.
Losing in video games isn't always fun. And if it's not fun, why bother? You probably aren't going to start winning without a little improvement. A little optimization. Just to be sure, I don't mean hardware performance. I'm not trying to sell you the latest graphics card. I'll instead be banging on about player optimization. So what is that exactly? Well, for a battle-hardened DBD player such as myself, it's the art of not getting hooked 15 seconds into the match. Players have optimized an incredible amount of gameplay variables.
That clown guide is so wild. That clown guide is so wild. Have you looked at stuff that's actually in that? Like, you don't need like any of that. like as somebody who plays clowns like at least once in a stream, you don't need like any of that. Like what an overboard analyzation. Like analysis. I don't think analyzation is the word. Like, what an overboard analysis. Like, oh my god.
Whether that's perfecting movement and pathing, or concocting a combination of perks potent enough for Oddstava to sniff it out and stick it in a video. Almost everything can be optimized for this game. The wait time in lobbies, the buttons on your keyboard. People love DBD so much that they've even optimized their ability to quit the game. Playing DBD efficiently can be the simple result of a handful of hours experience, or hardcore research. But where do we draw the line between a casual interest in improvement and full-blown min-max competitivity? Let's have a look.
Yeah.
Sir, the players, they've started looping. What the f is looping?
Just like
legitimately looping was not part of the game design. Isn't that wild? The core gameplay that the game has was not intended. Isn't that so wild? Isn't that so wild? The main thing you do in this video game was not on purpose. Both Killer and Survivor, the main thing you do, looping, was not an intended mechanic. How?
From London have an inherent advantage against killers like the Legion. Those who have practiced or mastered the mechanical skill involved in blowing someone's head off.
Right. How could you put in windows and pallets and not expect people to start going around them to try and, maybe save them a little bit? Like, how did you not see them potentially doing that? Not throwing it right away. Going around a few times. Like, how did you not see that being a thing? Like,
will be better off in a new FPS than someone who's never touched the genre before. Dead by Daylight is a somewhat special case because it has unique gameplay, the likes of which players who have experience in other genres haven't had the chance to accommodate for. But the concept of running around obstacles to avoid being caught is not completely alien to game developers or players. So let's use this example of looping as one of the many factors that DBD players have optimized over the game's lifespan. The term looping was coined quickly, and it can be argued that the devs intended for players to use the various mechanics, such as pallets and windows, in this manner, but not to the extent we see today. Quite often, the few milliseconds you can squeeze out of a good looping could be the difference between a clean getaway or having your toes locked off through a window, which gives large incentive for players to really learn the art of delaying the down, or making it happen. Even now, new mind games are being invented. Some call them techs. The CJ tech, the dumb tech, the forget your YouTube account password tech. To learn a few of these, you might have to do some research. Maybe it starts off with an innocent Google search, a simple guide video. For some, this curiosity only escalates. Jeff is one such person. After spending 3 weeks pulling all-nighters, he knows every tile, every perk percentage, and every tech. His family may have stopped talking to him, but that's okay, because Jeff has a dream. He loads into a game of Dead by Daylight, and subsequently gets his shit kicked in. So what went wrong? As we accumulate playtime, we're unconsciously optimizing our playstyle, whether that's through game sense or muscle memory. It's this slow but inevitable optimization of even the tiniest things in game that really complements player skill. However, mastery over these game mechanics doesn't equate to a perfect playstyle, or the best build. Some players go out of their way to find the best tools for the job, and here's where things start to get a tad competitive.
Oh, I love this.
はい。で、その間に破滅のトーテムを
Dead by Daylight isn't competitive.
No, no, all right. I know that sounds bad.
But everyone has different standards when it comes to competitivity. I stand by the idea that DBD is about as sweaty as you want it to be. Just don't expect folks to be as hyped about your 2,000 plus nurse win streak as you are.
Yep.
Because there is a level of deliberacy in improving to the competitive standard, it's hard to attain the level needed by playing naturally, though it's far from impossible to unwittingly discover popular trendy movement text through normal gameplay. You could, for example, play drunk off your and come to the sudden realization that twirling around in a circle is a good way to avoid a smack on the bum. However, there's a world of difference between doing that and jumping into a custom game to test bump every pixel in sight, as Hillbilly or Blight.
You have to! Those characters are miserable. Well, Blight's fine. But Billy's miserable if you don't know the collision, okay? Don't come after me like that. That is thrive or die for Hillbilly. You gotta learn. You gotta learn the wonky collision of this video game, or else you are a man without a power. Don't tell me that.
Obviously, competitive optimization is the result of a deliberate and active attempt to improve variables and timings, and not a string of happy little accidents. But why go through all that effort and delve into the scene when the game so clearly caters towards the casual audience?
I don't know.
As inaccessible as characters or builds feel sometimes,
let's go.
It's quite simple for casual DBD players to reach the meta by slapping on the right combinations of perks on the right character. It's all too easy to point.
That's what I was talking about in the Lily Pie video. It's like, you don't have to be good at chase. You can just slap on force slowdown and buy enough time to have bad chases. Same thing with survivors. You don't have to be good at chase. You just have to slap on enough gen rush that you do the gen faster than you go down. That's it. That's it. You can just pad your build strong enough to where you don't have to learn anything. Great.
The blame at the last two comp DBD players in existence for optimizing the game and letting the rest of the world see their devious findings. But the real problem is how long issues with meta stay in community discourse and still remain unbalanced. Folks will seek optimization simply because it is fun not to get shit on, and in most cases for DBD, the meta or optimized methods of winning are a tedious mess of balancing flaws that should have never had a spotlight in the first place. Alright, after being sucked into the absolute bog that is DBD balance discussion, we imagine a much more friendly topic, which is how other games have experienced player optimization. Because God forbid if I have to talk about DBD all the time. If you've ever slide jumped in Apex Legends, then congratulations. You've revolutionized your movement, and will probably never return to the disgustingly snail-paced speed of regular running. This is just a small example of how peeps have utilized the Titanfall engine to optimize mobility. If I showed people how many different techs there are for Apex in one go, then your average Megmain's brain would probably explode.
No,
There's even a bloke whose entire channel is dedicated to covering these techs, and he's not making obnoxiously overly filtered montages about it either. Well, how about the
it's so like those montages have never been good. Like never been good. Those were always so disgusting to watch. Like they were over edited and ugly. Like those things were never good. And everybody who thought they were good, you were lying to yourself.
Tarkov, a tactical looter shooter that has captured the hearts of countless streamers in the last few years. Yes, good movement and positioning can matter, but it's not the focus of the game. No, the focus of this game is to instead press this cheeky button so you can watch a 10-hour guide video on how to play the damn thing. Rainbow Six Siege is another example. Every death is something that you can learn from. You can and will get killed by the most random shit ever. Sometimes you just kind of have to sit back and say, you know what, I'm kind of impressed. But only
that's the funny thing too, is like, and that Siege is the other game I play, which is why I'm like stepping in here. One of the funniest things about like Siege is like people will argue all the time, like in the in-game chat, is like, well, you're not doing really well because you don't have a lot of kills. When realistically, while there's a lot of stuff that you could do really, really right in this game, there's also a lot of stuff that you could just get killed by random stuff a lot too. Like you just get taken out by the most random things that are just so bizarre and so just like unreadable that like I don't know why people like try to talk about it like kills are intrinsic or a lack of deaths is intrinsically skillful, because there's just so much random stuff that could happen that I don't know. It's just like TLDR, they're right. They're right.
You finished throwing your monitor out the window. And the last game I'll be projecting my own personal experience into what is essentially a scuffed DBD video essay is Hunt Showdown. Half of Hunt Showdown is learning how to avoid making noise, and the other half after that is learning that it doesn't matter, because let's be real, the chances of Hunt players actually setting up an ambush after hearing a sound trap is pretty freaking low.
I still haven't played this.
Shit.
pretty good. Hey!
Launches of video games with obscure or even just slightly unique gameplay is a sight to behold. I don't even want to desecrate the sanctity of what is arguably the most memorable part of any game's lifespan with my pseudo-intellectual analysis, but the truth is, launches are an optimization playground. It's a mutual arena of learning and discovery where players figure out how they're supposed to be engaging the game, and a nerve-wracking time for developers who are waiting to find out if upper management will let them go home at the end of the day. I enjoy new releases like this because for the most part, everyone's bloody awful at the game. It's the great equalizer for a bloke who has accepted long ago that maybe, after a decade and a half of playing video games, he isn't the best at video games. In the same way, knowing that you can play before the 15-year-olds on Adderall come home from school, knowing everyone else sucks as much as you do is one of the only kinds of tranquility that brings peace to my old shriveled gamer heart. But think back to when you just started playing something new. It can be tempting to leave the baby, infant, no idea what the fuck I'm doing phase as fast as possible. I sometimes hear people wish they could go back to the beginning of games, when everything was better, and I have felt the very same.
So many games are like that. Like, so many games are like that. So many games are just because when you first start a game, you don't know you don't see the flaws because you just wonder if that's just part of the cycle of the game and the way it's played. But once you become familiar with the game, you see through the illusion. Right? You see that a lot of these things are accidental or not intended and that sort of thing. Good night, Matt. I appreciate you. First of all, bud. Like, that's why you crouch walked around and you were super scared when you first started playing DBD and were playing Survivor. Because, you didn't know what was happening. You didn't know if that killer was super smart or super dumb, if they were approaching you or approaching somebody else. Like, you didn't know what was happening. So it felt like a terrifying experience, where in reality it's just some dude who's, like, probably not got a lot of time on his hands and he's walking straight towards you, and that's it. Like, it's just some guy on the other end of the screen. Like, there's nothing scary truly happening. But when you don't know that, because you don't have all the information, you're not familiar with the game yet, like, that may be a scary scenario for you.
But our vision of release is usually clouded from initial excitement, and eventually, nostalgia. No matter what you do, both you and others are inevitably going to get better at the game, and optimize the way you like playing. For some of you, that means running mellow and inoffensive builds until the heat death of the universe. And for others, it means using the best stuff they could get their hands on. And yes, someone out there is going to play 16 hours straight after launch while you sleep, like a normal person. And when you get the chance to play the game again, these types of players are going to roll you, but that's okay. So what on earth am I trying to get at? I'm trying, quite badly, to justify the many different paths of player-based optimization. Circulating back to DBD, obviously DBD's general balance during beta and release was dreadful, but it was a relatively level playing field in terms of player skill, as opposed to what we have now. Comp-like gameplay styles in DBD have little to no presence in actual public games of DBD, so most of what we have left is peeps pointing fingers at each other, lamenting the usage of whichever annoying meta blunder is causing the most issues at that point in time. I've seen a few players complain that the most recent meta is unfun for both sides. It is true that the person on the other end of a highly optimized loadout or playstyle might be in for a bad match. So let's close off this video by exploring if all this nonsense about optimization is fun or not.
I think the problem with the current meta is it's so easy. It doesn't take any input from you to optimize what you're using, right? Like we said in a previous video, kicking a gen is no effort required. You just walk up and you press a button, and then your 3 other perks go burr. Same thing with like the gen perks that make the gens go faster. You're just holding M1, right? Like, the things you were doing don't require your input really, so that's why it's frustrating.
Perfect world, you get saved before second stage.
Any second now.
The God Pilot stays up longer than 3 seconds, but this is not a perfect world. Players don't play optimally, they get greedy, they get impatient, and they take shots that aren't guaranteed. The emergence of competitiveness is the death of fun for many players, but without it, gameplay would never evolve and meta would stagnate, which from what we've seen throughout DBD's lifetime, isn't for the best in terms of player satisfaction. I believe optimization is a big factor in how players perceive if their games were fair or not. In other words, how differences in skill can make wins or losses feel deserved. Have you ever overcome overwhelming odds against a player or players who have been stomping on your nuts for 10 minutes straight?
It's pretty good.
This guy getting massacred by an alpha tester near Mortal launch day, is he having a good time? Why don't we ask him? Getting smacked around by a skilled player is, in a way, less frustrating than facing the lunatic who only knows how to abuse whichever plague is ravaging the meta at the time.
Yep. Whenever I've actually run into 4-mans like Swifts or like actual comp players out in the wild in public matches, it's actually super fun. Like, I actually legitimately have a great time. when I run an actual 4-man Swift trying or running into like people who I know have comp experience, my matches are actually super entertaining and super fun. I get frustrated at what was that? We had that Ada on that clown match on Haddonfield on Monday that was running like it was toolbox, brand new part, prove, hyper focus, stakeout, and then overzealous. Like full commitment to the gen meta. It was annoying. I hated that match. It was stupid. Like just full commitment to the meta. The worst matches I obviously have in Survivor are, you know, over Brian Eruption into either Nowhere to Hide or a 4th Slowdown. When I actually run into like somebody who's like really, really good at the game on either side, it's actually super fun, even if they're sweating super hard. It's the people who are meta slaves and just cheesing things that are easy to use that are just happen to be strong as well that's just really annoying and frustrating.
And like I mentioned before, DBD's unbalanced playing field has enabled players to dabble with the forbidden, dark, and unfun arts since day one. Hilariously, some of the strats which require no thought or particular optimization have had success for 6 years running, while stuff that takes real time and investment to excel at, all the while retaining balance, gets inexplicably nerfed.
Yep.
Now of course, a better player or team is going to have the upper hand in most situations, but the more you know about the game, the more wary you'll be of these problems. After all, you don't see new players wait 9 seconds for a dead hard that will never come around. It's this combination of giving peeps methods to screw you over using minimal skill, along with the paranoia that these options create, which can make DBD a tad iffy at times. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are just about enough folks out there optimizing and utilizing mechanics in unconventional manners for the sake of a good time. While kneecapping yourself for the banter of it all might be a mindset in the minority, it's these types of players who bring life to games with stale metas. No matter how you optimize your gameplay, there's enough variety for everyone in DBD. Some of it might not be the best, but that's part of the challenge that keeps peeps around. But what the heck do I know? I want to hear your thoughts on this topic to confirm how horribly wrong I am. Whether you found this whole topic interesting, or whether you thought my mid-section ramblings about other games made no freaking sense, I'd love to see it in the comments. Just remember it's important not to hate on the comp DBD players too much because there's not enough of them to form a support group. As we all know, the real ruiner of fun is a stinky attitude, so be nice. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I hope
yeah, it's like, I mean, I agree that it's like I have more fun not using the meta on either side than I ever do using it. And he is right that, like, even though I do, like he phrased it, kneecap myself and make myself sad sometimes, like, the satisfaction I get when I perform well, even while not using that, is makes me way happier than if I had done it with the meta. So yeah, I definitely agree that like players like that are important because I feel the thrill and fun of playing like that, and I agree that it is great. You tried the new behavior game? No. Yeah, I'm into DBD because it's a horror themed game. I'm not like a behavior boy. It's not like Nintendo where I'm like, you know, people will be Nintendo heads and they just play everything Nintendo related. I'm not here for behavior. I'm here for their game. Yeah, so it's just like, yeah, I find it more fun to play outside of those things than to play with them. And the satisfaction that I do get is really nice, so yeah, I do feel what he says here.